All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday, June 7th, I believe is the correct date. Welcome to Market Movers. We are back. Had a few days off over the weekend. I know, Justin, you ran a little solo stream, had your early edge debut on Sportsline.
Yeah.
How's everything going for you?
Good. I mean, it was a fun weekend. Definitely had a good time sitting here fussing around with my microphone solo. And then yesterday was great. Had a great day. I know we lost that last underplay in the Yankee game, but I mean, that was just a brutal call there to end that game with that bad strikeout call, like 4 inches off of the plate. And I really think that they had a chance to finish that one right at 9. But you know what? We're not going to be upset. It felt like it was the right side. I got that push in the Texas Rangers game with like 9 runs in 2 innings or something and 17 left on base. So I'm feeling like I'm on a good place, and things just sort of haven't been falling the way we need them to. But we've seen that many times that eventually they do. So just going to keep on doing the work and trying to find lines. And for a Sunday, you know what? I will take 1-1-1. I'll tell you what.
For sure. Sundays are definitely tough in Major League Baseball. Very short slate today, only 3 games. I think everyone had the same kind of reaction when they saw that. They're like, okay, why are the games not loading? Like, what's going on with the app? Like, very unusual to see only 3 baseball games on a Monday like this. And they're all kind of spread out. I mean, 2 West Coast games and then the odd start time in Boston, right? What's up with the odd start time? Is there a holiday or something that I don't know about that's causing this?
I don't really think is anything too crazy. I mean, 5:10 seems a little weird. My guess is that because this is a makeup game, I believe, or something. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll verify it as we speak. But I do think this is a 1-game series per se. I think this is like they're stopping in, they're saying what's up, and then they're going and doing other things. So let me just verify that's true. Yes. So the Boston played the Yankees yesterday, Miami today, Houston tomorrow. And Houston's coming in, and I don't know if so my guess is Miami's traveling again today. So this is just a little bit of hecticness for the Marlins. And so they're getting an earlier start time, so it's not too crazy. They're going home. They're flying down to Miami tonight to host the Rockies. So
got it. That makes sense. Yeah. Get them the little, so they can travel comfortably tonight. Makes a ton of sense. National Chocolate Ice Cream Day today, Mike, says Rex. That may or may not be true.
Wow. So. I'm all in on Chocolate Ice Cream Day. There's a little place on the Upper East Side called Emac and Bolio's that's been there around this area, probably in like Massachusetts, for years. They make like serious chocolate addiction. That stuff is just, if you like chocolate, it's deadly. But all right, shout out Emacs. But yeah, I'm taking a play on this game.
Are you?
I did put a play on this game. I do like going over on it. Let me make sure that's the right thing. I have an over and an under play. I'm going over on this one. I knew I was right, but yeah. So I'm going over. I just really don't think that either pitcher is as great as they're chalked up to be. I mean, you have Pablo Lopez is, he has good stuff, right? 31% hard hit percentage, so he's like avoiding barrels. But, I think this is a good lineup. Red Sox have found a way to put up 4 to 5 runs every night the last couple nights. I don't really know if Miami's going to have the bullpen depth. And then on the other side, which is I think the sharper side, is that it looks like Pivetta and, his matchup against the Marlins offense might be the reason why we're seeing runs. So if I had to take a side to go the team total on, I'm probably going on the sharper side with the Marlins and them being the ones to carry this play. But yeah, I think Pivetta, that 11.3% walk percentage, it's just, there's something there that sort of says, well, he might regress back to his mean eventually. He's pitching pretty well, but he's at a 1.22 whip and his career is 1.4. 5-season ERA 5.2, this season 3.77. So he's kind of out of nowhere pitching a lot better. He held a 6.89 last year, and now he's 3.77. So I don't know. I think the Marlins might get this one. That seems to be what the market thinks.
Yeah. I think that I do think the market kind of thinks that. I think the reason why you see that is I think that JD Martinez is truly questionable to play in this game, potentially not going to. And he would be worth a little bit of market movement. So I think that that's what some of the sharper people are betting on in this spot with him questionable here. He was scratched the other day. To your point, Pivetta, though, yeah, he's been great. The expected numbers are right in line with his actual numbers so far, but it is worth pointing out that that is a pretty substantial improvement over his career baselines, as you mentioned. I think the most important thing here is going to be the weather, right? You mentioned at the start of the show you're going to have the air conditioner running in the place. I've got the AC on here. It's not nearly as hot here, but it is quite warm on the East Coast there, especially in Boston, New York City. This, I love the air density, right? The air density index here at 61 is low for Fenway. Even this time of year, it is low for Fenway. That number should be 64, 65 on a really good day. But we're talking 90 degrees, 50% humidity, when blowing out at 13. There's a reason why this one's moved to 9.5. And frankly, it wouldn't shock me if for some reason JD Martinez was ruled in still. It wouldn't shock me if this thing moved all the way to 10 at some point.
So, yeah, I mean, I was able to get it up on Sportsline this morning at 9. I was really happy to grab that. I do think it was minus 120. VMI numbers are plus 0.19 for Miami, plus 1.35 for Boston. Nothing crazy, but I think this is more about the park that they're playing in, the ability for the ball to sort of fall a little quicker, right? And or maybe even carry a little farther depending on how things are hit. Like, it just plays right into our hand, essentially. And I think the first thing I wrote on my blurb today was there's a 12 to 13 mile an hour wind blowing out. And, Fenway's actually a really hard park to hit a home run in, but it's a really easy park to hit a double in. It's a really easy park to hit a triple in. I think it's 80% more likely to have a triple in it than the average park in the MLB. Sean, hit me with the question. Definitely. You don't really have to ask. You can just usually drop them in the chat. We do watch what's going on. But no, I'm definitely on the over here. I got it at 9, and people have asked, would I take it at 9.5? And the answer is probably no. It's a little risky still. I'm not going to compromise my position. So maybe if you really believe it, but I'm staying with my 9.
Let me give you let me look at this while we wait for Sean's question. Where are the alternate totals at your sportsbook right now?
Oh, interesting.
There is 10. I want the over 10. Yeah, not quite. If you like it, if you're going to play 9.5, I think you might as well play over 10 at plus 115.
Right.
I would much rather get it at plus 20 and not lay any juice, because at some point you could potentially have to lay minus 115 or more on that 9.5. So I personally would rather get the plus money at over 10, because again, you need 10 anyway. You're looking at a push condition if it lands on 10, but I like that plus 110 more than laying the extra juice at 9.5.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I don't really think that you want to invite that. All right. Play the under. It's moved to 8. What type of movement do you sprinkle a little more? Interesting. So, yeah, that could be a scenario to potentially put a little bit more on the under there. I have to take a little bit more of a look into it. Minus 110 is especially interesting. I probably would have rather been paying attention to it and got it at plus 100 or minus 105 at worst. If I was going to do that, I mean, again, if it maybe gets to 8.5 for some reason, I'd definitely be grabbing it. But for minus 110, which is essentially what I have 7.5 at, I'd probably wait. Maybe a sprinkle, maybe 0.1 or 0.2 if you really want to get into how a model would project maximizing your profit on something like that. But personally, in terms of how I normally bet, I probably wait to get a little bit more on it.
Makes a lot of sense. Last one on this, and then we'll move to that Cubs-Padres game potentially.
Yeah,
but talking about this, I personally probably would not. If it was minus 120 at 9, I would be slightly more interested in it. But
yeah,
at
that's
this
what I
point,
got.
still, I would. At minus 130, it's to the point where I would honestly, I'd be more comfortable going up a full run and getting plus 145 at a 15 or 45-cent difference there is huge, but it's kind of going to be your personal preference, really. But
Right.
yeah. So
I mean,
we
look,
will discuss basketball today, Josh. By the way, we will.
Yeah. But it's what you feel comfortable betting. I mean, if you really like the play and you don't want to worry about it, and you're comfortable laying the juice, I mean, sure. But I wouldn't recommend it. I think there's, it's okay to say, oh, I missed the play and the line moved, and I'll wait for another play or another opportunity. Again, or maybe it moves too much and you're like, oh, well, now it makes more sense to go the other way. So we'll wait. I mean, if I'll continue to watch it. I'll put an alert on my phone. If I get a notification that it bumps up again, I'll tweet about it or something, and maybe we sprinkle like a quarter of a unit on the under at like 8.5 if we can get it.
Yeah, perfect. You want to hit that game next since we're kind of talking about it already?
Yeah, sure. So it's an interesting one. Azalea and Weathers. Right. So I went under likely because not likely. I know why I went under, but I went under because of the likelihood of this park coming into play and this being one of the best places that Albert Azalea gets to pitch this year. I was joking around in my Discord about quoting him that it's probably the best pitching environment he's going to see all year. I mean, this is just a great place for him to pitch. The San Diego Padres are definitely the type of team that everyone thinks that they're going to be just smacking the ball around, but that hasn't been the case recently. They've been a little cold. If you look at their last 7 days, their last 14 days, they haven't been scoring with that potency that you expect. This feels like it's going to be a race to 3 to 4 runs. Honestly, I don't. Again, Weathers has not the best numbers because he doesn't stay in the game long. So he'll get like 2 or 3 earned runs in like 3 or 4 innings. And then he'll get pulled, and it'll be more of like a bullpen day for the Padres. So like his ERA doesn't always look great, but his effectiveness in terms of what we're looking for is fine. He doesn't get blown out too much. He's given up like 3 or 4 runs once. Usually it's 1 to 2 runs over 4 innings, and then they hand it to the bullpen. So look, I'm taking. It's definitely a little bit of a contrarian play, as you can see. The numbers are moving. We just get a new push at 8 now that number is there. So I'm not going to grab it just yet. I'm going to maybe see if we can get more juice going the other way. I mean, with something moving like that, you don't rush and be like, oh, let me put more money on it right now. You sort of say, let me see where it's at. Let me see if it closes. Let me see if there's some buyback. You try to really analyze the market to see if you can get the best price to put that sprinkle on. You don't want to rush to sprinkle on something that's moving the way that you would get more value on.
Yeah. We see the comment here. Weathers says great stuff. I think the reason this line is moving up a little bit is due to Weathers and some of I have some minor concern, but I will say 8 is a lot of runs in this ballpark. It just is. Weather conditions not great. Negative VMI for both. Air density approaching 70. Only 61 degrees. The humidity is obviously the only concern at 80%, but Weathers is the real concern, right? 274 actual, 358 expected. I believe that might make him the number 1 regression candidate in all of Major League Baseball right now.
Yeah, it's a little worrisome.
Yes, as a starting pitcher, he is the number 1.
Well, here we go. But no, I think there's some stuff to be liked. I mean, he limits walks, which is always good for an underplay. It's like that's a big factor for underplays, and I'd be very. Let me look at sort of how he's a big fastball guy. He's only been in the league. I believe it is his first year, but I don't really know. His barrel percentage isn't bad at 8.2. A lot of he's like they compare him. Baseball Savant compares him to Kenta Maeda, Matt Harvey, Merrill Kelly. I don't know if you like those comparisons or you don't, but just in terms of like the batted ball profile. So he definitely has good stuff. Those are guys who have good stuff, but can sometimes struggle to like command it. And you can see that in the heat maps of his pitch arsenal. His sinker doesn't really have a lot of control. His slider can sometimes be a little all over the place. His changeup and his fastball are pretty nice, but I'm okay with this play. I know that his hard hit percentage and his chase rates aren't great, but if he has a good game at a friendly park, I think this stays well under 8 and we only need one side to have a bad day here, right? Like we can win on a 6-1 day, right? Like that's fine. So that's the hope.
Yep. This one's a good question. On Friday, basically the over 9 dropped 8.5, but you wouldn't jump on it till you got to -110, -115. It adds a win to a potential push at 9 and didn't add a loss variable. Why wait on 5 cents juice? It's just one that I'm always conscious of how much juice I'm paying at all times, no matter what. And
right.
Only 5 cents is essentially your profit margin for the entire season in a lot of cases for many people. So look, I think that it's something that if you've watched the market long enough and you could see based on those trends and the market activity that all I have to do to save that 5 cents is wait. And that was essentially why. Justin kind of is in a similar situation, but not similar tonight. Going up the other way, so getting a more friendly price for your under bet in this case. It's basically the exact opposite of this.
Yeah.
But the reason why Justin's going to wait as well is he's likely going to end up getting a better price on it because it could move even further up and you might be getting even money on that 8 as opposed to laying -110, -115. So I think you kind of touched on this one already, but any additional thoughts you have on it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with how you approach it. Sort of the way I do it too. It takes a lot of discipline, right? To do that, to say, oh, it's just 5 cents. And that's kind of how that it's phrased to throw you off, but it's actually 5%, like per cent. It's not 5 cents. It's 5 cents per dollar that you're betting.
Yes.
So that is an important distinction in language that we can make because you hear cents and it just is discarded by your brain, right? We're pretty accustomed to, I don't care about the cents. 5 cents, 10-cent movement. Like how about 5%, 10% of what you're paying movement? Like it's a big difference when you hear it like that. I mean, just for me personally. So I can only imagine what some other people who maybe don't phrase it like that might feel too. So I like to share. That's what I'm just kind of here to do, right? But anyway, I'm with you on the thinking. You want to be sort of careful with that. We only try to beat the books by 1 or 2% of our return on what we're playing every year. So we don't like to throw 5% around. Why would we?
I mean, think about it literally as like buying an expensive item, a car or a house, whatever it may be. You're going to pay 5% more if you buy it at noon versus 3 p.m. Like if I told you that based on market trends, there's a good chance you're going to get to pay 5% less if you wait until 3 p.m. to buy it, you're probably going to wait until 3 p.m. to buy it, right?
That's kind of what we're here to do.
So that's essentially, I know it doesn't make sense and depending on bet size and you hear cents, but that's just the way that it is described because it is truly talking about cents.
Truly the way it is. All right. There is one other game
question,
today.
Though.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thanks to you for allowing us to talk about that. It is definitely worth everyone's time. We have one more game really briefly, Kowar and the Angels. I mean, I'm not really touching this one. It's the only game I didn't really take. I think you have a really interesting matchup here between these two. I'd probably lean on the over. Just because Bundy has been getting so unlucky. I mean, he's probably we talk about the biggest candidates for regression. He might be the biggest candidate for progression, right? He has like a FIP of 3.6 or something, and his ERA is over 6. So that's crazy. That's crazy, that difference. So he's getting unlucky at every turn. He's having problems in terms of commanding his stuff. But he hasn't been getting supported either. So I don't know. This Angels lineup is still pretty weak. Are you betting on them to take a game, or are you going to take the plus money and maybe grab the Royals?
I would probably play the plus money on the Royals. I don't have a play on it here, but you're right. Bundy has had a lot of bad luck in terms of some of the batted ball stuff. The expected weight on base average data really shows that as well. But overall, I don't have much interest in playing the game. I think that at the current price at plus 143, it makes a ton of sense why we've seen the movement.
Yep.
Jackson Kawhi, like, I believe this is Major League debut.
It is his debut.
It's a Major League debut here. So could he come in?
And Bundy is winless. So,
yep.
No, Zach's on them. So Zach has he's been on like a little streak. He's on them today. He likes the Royals to serve up some home runs because Bundy has allowed 7 in his last 3 starts, which is, pretty bad. So we're probably going to play the Royals if we have to. Again, I don't know if we're getting a donkey of the day really or anything out of this day. But you might have the wrong team favored. You really might. This kid could come in and do pretty well.
Yeah, I would say normally you would think that like going to the West Coast, Angel Stadium, like might be a good pitching environment for him. They're actually very similar,
right,
in terms of how they play or how they have played. Using some of the Savant Park factors, the Angel Stadium is the 5th best or 6th best hitting environment. The Royals is the 8th. Very similar across the board, other than home runs. So in home runs, Kansas City's park is one of the most difficult to hit a home run. 3rd most difficult. Yeah. Giants, A's, Royals. The Angels, however, are 7th. So it's a lot easier to hit home runs out there so far based on some of the actual data.
That's not good for Bundy.
Not good for Bundy. But I don't have a play on it. If I had to play it, like I'm simply going to play the dog there. I'm going to play the dog in the Marlins game, and probably would be the under in the Cubs-Padres game. But
I'm into it. It seems like it's the way to go. Again, we don't really have much on the slate in baseball today. It's strange. Yeah. We haven't had such a quiet day, I feel like, since we started the show. So we'll take it on the chin. We'll hopefully hit a couple of these plays. If you wanted to parlay, I guess what we've been talking about today, I wouldn't recommend it because they're all 100 lines. They're the likely ones to hit. But yeah, you could go over in the Miami, under in Chicago, and grab the Royals and see what happens. I mean, that's how I have everything projected to go. I can tell you right now, obviously, it was really easy to run through the entire MLB slate today and handicap every game because it took about 20 minutes. But when I did cap everything, I took Boston. I took the over. And I have Boston winning against the spread. I took Kansas City winning. I have the over there. And then I also obviously have Kansas City on the spread because if they win as an underdog, you understand. Then I have Chicago winning the San Diego matchup. And so obviously them on the spread too. So, I mean, we'll see. The Cubs are, I feel like, a better offense right now. Excited.
They're sneaky against left-hand pitching. They're sneaky.
They're the better offense right now. And Padres really don't have it clicking, and that sometimes happens, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think the Cubs swept them. Am I wrong? The Cubs swept them at Wrigley. So the park shift's a big deal, but how much does it really change? There's a reason, right? Like it's like saying, all right, you lose by 40 points in basketball one night. Are you going to win the next night? The likelihood is like, no, it's hard for 40 points to change in a night. How big of a deal is it for a sweep to change in one night? I do think the Cubs get a game or two of this series in San Diego. So I think it should be fun. I like all these matchups today. I'll probably watch all 3 games. All
right. NBA talk before we head out.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
I'll start with the first game, Bucks and Nets. This one opened Nets minus 2.5, now down to 1 to 1.5 in many places. Bucks listed as the sharp side. Nets getting about 60% of the action. More of the money coming in on the Bucks, though. James Harden, big news, obviously not going to play with the hamstring.
Yeah, it's huge.
Played all of 45 seconds in the first game.
Ridiculous.
Still win for it was ridiculous. Well, we won't talk about that one. I didn't bet on the game, but it impacted daily fantasy. But
yeah, it did. Well, what do you make of it? Do you think now that they know Harden's not there and they can game plan around just KD and Kyrie that the Bucks are really able to take this game tonight? Is that how this is going, or are we really just going to keep seeing KD and Kyrie be like, you know what? Nah, we're going to win both in Brooklyn, and then maybe we lose both in Milwaukee and it's fine. We get James back for game 5. Like which direction are they going to let this one slide, or are they going to try to get it?
I think it's going to be just an ultra competitive game, obviously, either way. If I had to play it, I would play the Bucks at this point. I think the massive difference here is there's a huge difference in game planning for the big three and having Harden go out in the start of the game and trying to adjust and make. I know they obviously had an entire second half in that scenario and an entire halftime to plan for it. They had timeouts. They had everything. There's just a big difference in knowing that he's going to for sure be out, having multiple days really to prepare for that. So I think that that's going to be something that's much different. They're going to be much better prepared for everything there. And the other thing that's kind of underrated that I don't know if we'll talk about much, but I want to mention is they actually got some production from Blake Griffin. In that last game.
Who Blake Griffin? Was that Blake Griffin on the court, or did he steal someone else steals jersey? I mean, come on now. He was like hitting threes like it was nobody's business. So if they can count on that, wow.
That's the thing, right? Does that happen twice? Are we going to see a big repeat performance there in that? I need to see it, honestly. It's might be disrespectful to say that, but I need to see Blake Griffin put 2 or 3 of those games together in a row before I really believe that that's what we're going to get and what we need to essentially be accounting for when we're simulating the game.
It'd be hilarious. I think it'd be great, but
it would be great. It would be absolutely great if they could come out and win this game. But because of that, because of having the additional time, they get to prepare.
Yeah.
I think that the Milwaukee Bucks is the sharp side in this game personally. Not going to shock me at all if Durant and Irving are on their game. They get a little bit from Blake and they pull away and win this one by double digits. Like, it's not going to shock me at all. But I think Middleton will shoot a little better. I think the Bucks are the sharp side in this one personally.
Yep. I mean, I'm with you. I think you're touching upon some great stuff. Basketball, especially in the playoffs, is about so many defensive sets and really getting your planning right and understanding the way you're going to be running your defense. And the moment James Harden comes out, you don't have to really account for his presence, but you don't really have the impact of Kyrie and KD playing a combined 80 minutes out there and really possessing the ball for those 80 minutes. I mean, their usage was way up, right? And it's going to stay way up. So that's something that they can probably capitalize on, try to force the ball from their hands, hopefully make KD shoot less. You just want him touching the ball less, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I do disagree. I'm not betting on it, but I do think the Nets pull it off.
Interesting.
But yeah, I think if I really had to take a swing at a bet on that game, I'd probably go under on the 234, which is where it was this morning if I had to. I think with that game planning, like you're saying, we're going to see a little bit more of like a hyper competitive, really like important pivotal game where it comes down to like the defense and who can limit who. And 234 is pretty high. So
sounds like you should have a play on the game then, because the total is currently 236.5 to 237.
Wow. It's really climbed this morning.
Yes. I also lean towards the under as well. I have it at 233.3. Pretty solid, meaningful edge there. I might, because of the lack of action in baseball, I might actually jump in.
It looks like a good one, honestly. I was a little shocked to see it so high, especially on such an important game. Like, the more important the games become, the more defensive they become. You saw that really in the Mavs series. I mean, we were down to like under the line was 211 yesterday for Game 7. Great game, by the way. Great game.
I think
sad
that's
to see it go out, but great game.
Another thing that's interesting to me here too is now I think the Nets become a lot more vulnerable in this particular game and in this situation, just because if one of Durant or Irving gets into an early foul trouble, right? Just 2 quick fouls, anything. It puts a lot of pressure. Their offensive rating takes a significant hit if they have to play many minutes without both of them on the floor.
Yep.
So just something to think about there. I do not agree with the market moving this one up on the total. Again, 233.3 is my sim number.
And market's been pretty bad. Like with a lot. I mean, I agree with you, but market's been dumb, right? Like we've seen so much market movement, and then that side just loses. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh man, the market's moving away from my pick, I'm screwed. Honestly, that kind of makes me confident, at sometimes. Like I don't usually gauge things by it, But with how things have been going recently, you can't help but feel okay about getting the steam against you a little bit. I don't chase it ever, so it doesn't really matter. It's just like, oh, like, wow, haha, every time I get closing line value, I lose, and every time I lose it, I win. So we're going to see. We're going to see. Then the next game, this is a matchup I think everyone's been waiting for. Whoever came out of this series was going to be a great game against the Suns. An untested, young Suns team, multiple star players for them in the playoffs for the first time. It's going to be interesting. I mean, people are saying that, Ayton's going to be able to defend Jokic. I think that's what the series is going to crux on. You have any takes on this one?
I think it comes down to that a little bit, but I think honestly what I'm most interested in and or potentially confident in is I think they're going to let Jokic get whatever he wants. I think Chris Paul is still, even in this shape, is good enough defensively. Devin Booker out there. I think Phoenix obviously has a massive edge on the perimeter in this game. I mean, look, we've watched, say it's LeBron's age, say it's whatever you want to, but the combination of what the Suns can throw out there at LeBron with Jay Crowder, for example, I'm pretty confident with his playoff experience, his physicality and everything there and Michael Porter Jr.'s struggles with ball handling in general. I'm pretty confident that Jay Crowder is going to be able to lock him up. And I think that's going to be a problem. So I think that obviously this series would be a heck of a lot more fun if we had Jamal Murray out there offensively for the Nuggets in this matchup. But my concern is if they let Jokic get his 30 points, who else on this Denver roster is going to contribute 20 plus points a night consistently in this matchup? I would love to think that it could be
Morris. I don't know,
but it's going to have to be someone like Monte Morris. Like, do we think Austin Rivers is going to go out there and score 20 points a game against Chris Paul, Devin Booker?
He'll score 40 points the entire series, probably, or something.
Right. So for me, I think that they're just so strong on the perimeter. This series really hinges on Michael Porter Jr.'s ability to, frankly, go get that double-double, right? He's got to get 20 and 10. And if he doesn't, I don't see whatever Jokic does. Yeah. I don't see it being enough, right?
Yeah. No, Jokic could even is going to get 35,
for sure.
12 rebounds and 5 assists probably. And they're not going to force him to pass the ball. I don't know what his under props are, but he hasn't been passing in the playoffs. If he's coming in under at a 6.5 or a 7 line on assists, I wouldn't hate that. I mean, I don't know. It's been interesting. I don't know how Denver goes up against a much better team. Portland had its weaknesses, right? They could just body down low. Their bigs didn't know how to stay out of foul trouble. But, that might be the same thing again. If Jokic gets Ayton in foul trouble, what's the story going to be? Does the whole narrative change? Can they not get shots? I mean, again, I do think that the backcourt really overpowers the Nuggets. They're really going to be missing Murray out there for the whole series. This is where it's really going to catch up to them because the Suns just have more options at every turn than they do.
I couldn't agree more. It's honestly, if you guys watch the early edge or you've seen any of the stuff on CBS Sports HQ, I've basically been talking about the best value bet out there was going to be the Suns on the futures line before the round 1 series started, because in my opinion, it was a pretty clear path. I still thought that was true. It's obviously not true anymore at this price point.
Market's caught on a little.
It was at that point. Now I kind of wonder if they can taste it a little bit too, right? They got past the Lakers. They're gone. They saw some of the Clippers' vulnerabilities against the Mavericks in some of the spots.
I mean, I'd hope that they're sitting there staying hungry, being like, we got an injured Lakers team that wasn't like the full test. I mean, they're playing another injured team in Denver who's missing one of their core pieces. And you might be able to make that argument. You'll probably hear that argument all over Twitter, like, oh, the Suns got half of the Lakers and no Murray on the Nuggets, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals. But you know what? That's okay. That's how it's going to work. I mean, every championship is about really staying healthy and managing injury, and all that stuff comes into focus now. So good props to the Suns. You've always heard about Phoenix and their ability to keep players healthy. And here we are. They have a full healthy roster, and even if Chris Paul gets a little hurt, I still think Booker and Ayton, they're great. So I'm definitely going to be on the Suns in this one. That is how I handicapped it today. I took the Suns on both the spread and this, and I also have the under on this one too, if I had to play it. Oh, actually, no, I took Denver spread, but I took Suns to win the game. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. One more final thought. I hate to pivot back to baseball, but the lineup is out, and we talked about that Boston game. JD Martinez is in fact out of the lineup for the Boston Red Sox. Kind of something that I was reading from the market data was going to be the case.
Be in. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so he's out. Christian Arroyo is leading off for the Boston Red Sox. So it's an interesting looking lineup from them today. No Christian Vasquez either. Kevin Pilecki is going to be doing the catching. Just something to throw it out there.
All right. So, I still think that the over has its legs. We're sort of going on that weather play. I like it. Not really going to back down from it. Already got the little bit of run value, moving it up to 9.5. So not mad about it. But all right. Good day on the show. I believe Mike is back on the early edge tomorrow morning. So you guys can get your fix here and at 10 a.m. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, as always, 12:30. It was great to see you again, Mike, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. Good luck, guys.